Hi everyone, it's Jenny here from Jenni Wren Floristry Arts and Crafts. Welcome to your living wreath making kit, and today we're going to learn how to make it. It's certainly one of my favourites and I'm sure it will become one of your favourites too. Let's get started. For those of you who have made your willow base, we can crack on. For those of you who are working from my kit, you will get your moss now, and you will also get your reel of wire. And we're simply going to take the moss and we're going to bind it around our wreath base. Now, just to make sure that your wreath base is approximately 13 to 14 centimeters, or should I say 13 to 14 inches, and no bigger, otherwise you might run out of moss. So just to ensure you have the right dimensions in the first place. Okay, I'm going to lower the camera now so you can look at my hands. And I will say one thing, I do apologize if you can hear some not background music, sounds like rushing water. Well, it's actually a heater. It's night time now and it's freezing cold. So yeah, I've got the heater on and I'm not going to turn it off because it's really cold now at the moment. I can't wait for spring to come, and this is why I love making things like this, because it really announces that spring is on the way. So with no further ado, we're going to start putting the moss onto the willow wreath base. So what we want to do is we want to get our wire and just wind it around a few times just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And it's very simple. All you're going to do is take a little bit of moss, place it over the base of your willow like so, and just bind it a few times. Each time you bind it, just move it along slightly, and go and get some more moss and do exactly the same. Pull the wire reasonably tight, because the willow is going to dry out slightly, and obviously you don't want the moss falling off. So yeah, just eyeball it and put the first layer down. We can always go back and put some more on. We're just creating our first layer here. And I'll let you continue with that, and we want to go all the way around the wreath. Just make sure that the moss is covering the entire surface of the wreath. We don't need it behind, but we certainly need it on top, because the bulbs that we're going to put on here, attach on here, are going to need the moisture from the moss that we're going to put down. So I'll let you get on with that. And when you come to the end, you can just tie off your wire, just sort of thread it back in itself a few times, just so that the wire doesn't come adrift. And now to the next part. So with the birch, you can just take sections of it and you can just push it through the moss. If you get some long bits, what you can do is you can just push it in, and if you want to, you can just weave it like you did the willow. And if you want to catch it at the base, if you want to catch it through a bit of the wire, you can do so, or you can just add a bit more wire to it, and it doesn't need to be, I quite like to have some floaty bits, because you're going to have all the other spring foliage poke through. So yeah, let you have some fun, be creative. As I say, if you've got long bits, you can just weave it around. If they're not so long, you can just stick it through. And as long as it's reasonably secure, the back, either by fastening it with wire or just tucking it in something else, and I'll let you get on with that. And now I'm going to start with the narcissi first, and gently, you don't actually need the soil on, so you must just gently extricate the roots and just tease them out and then gently pull them apart. Good. I've got a bowl here that I'm just working with because there will be a little bit of soil. Obviously you don't have to get every single little bit of soil off. A little bit of the soil is fine, and just give them a shake. Okay, so you got two things here. If you like the roots, okay, you can actually leave them exposed, all right, and then just sort of place them where you want them. All right, I quite like the roots exposed of the narcissi. They're much hardier than the smaller bulbs, and yeah, you just place them wherever you want them on the wreath. All right, and you can either just to secure, just get a moss pin and just put it down, or in my case a paper clip, and the last one. So as I say, I quite like the roots, but this, when you have the root exposed, got to make sure that you do mist it regularly, okay? You can't let the roots dry out. But obviously, if you mist it regularly and well, the moss is always going to be damp. So you're going to have a good source of moisture and water there. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to gently get your wire again and just gently go around it. Not too much, just very gently around, and you can cut it off just so that it's fixed to the wreath and secure it. Okay, and then obviously if you move it, it's not going to fall off. Yeah, and that's all you're going to do to all three. You don't want them too tight, you just want to gently secure them just on the roots, and then just a couple gently around the plant. If you want to, you can get a bit of birch or something in between the wire and the daffodil or narcissi, just so that it doesn't damage the stem. Most important thing is do not tighten it too much, okay? It's just there as to make sure that it doesn't fall off. And I'm doing the last one now. Do exactly the same. Just twist it around a couple of times there. Gently there. And if you want to, if you've got some of the birch left over and you know which way it's going to grow, you can actually just slip it in there or on top of it, to the side, or however. It's a very organic process. There's no right or wrong way. We just got to make sure that the bulbs are protected, but at the same time they have access to the moisture, so they continue to grow. Yeah, and they support it as well. So there's your first three. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next ones, which are the muscari, which I've got here, which are just delightful. And I've actually got, I'm very lucky, I've got 2 little babies there. And this one's got a bit of soil, which I'm actually going to leave on. And as I said, you should have had a bundle of, well, 1 handful of moss that was left over. And also the bulbs came with some moss at the bottom to make sure that they didn't dry out. So all you need to do is you just need to take a little bit of moss, and you see that? And you make a little bit of a kokedama, or little pocket of moss around the base. Don't cover the entire bulb, okay, because otherwise it will start to rot. And then again, you just get your wire and you can just wind it round a few times. So I'm just going to pop this other one here. Now obviously, because we've done this moss here, it's going to be slightly higher. So what you'd need to do is just scrape down the moss just to find the base, so they don't stand up too much higher than the others, okay? And then very simply, if you want to, you can also snatch the birch again, and yeah, just a couple of times. We're not binding it, we're just making sure that the bulb has contact with the moss and that it's secure. So if you shake it there, bearing in mind your door's going to open and close, so it's not going to drop off. And just continue to do that, putting moss at the base of your bulb and securing it on your wreath base. So yes, if you want to go ahead with that, and then we'll come back to the next stage once we have fixed all the bulbs to the wreath. Right, I have attached all the bulbs to the moss base, and I really think it looks rather fun. Now you have your pussy willow, you've got 2 stems, and all you need to do is you need to cut them down to whatever length you want, and then just start inserting it around your wreath base. So you can work out how many you get by cutting it, and then just simply push it through. So I'll just show you one. If you want to, you can have them on the side, all the way around the inside, all the way around the outside. Again, it's your wreath, you decide. Your bulbs are obviously not in flower at the moment, so this is the reason why I have included some verbena. I think you should have some verbena berries if you're lucky, bearing in mind, of course, again, that this is dependent on when you receive a wreath kit. But all you simply need to do is decide where you want a little bit of colour, and then just slot it in. If you find that you need a little bit of more security, you can always wind a little bit more wire or birch, or even use a toothpick to kind of stake it in. But the most important thing is to make sure that you've got a really nice strong stem with the greenery off. Greenery must be removed, and you simply get your wreath and you just push the stem in. Make sure that it's secure and just push it through like that, and just have a bit of fun with it and just pop some colour throughout the wreath. So I'll let you have some fun. Got some bit of yellow here, the yellow leaves, because I thought that'd be a bit of fun, because we've got the daffodils coming out, so you can put a bit of colour in. Sometimes the leaves get a little bit in, so just find a nice couple of pieces. And in this particular, while I was driving around today, I did find some blossom, because there wasn't a few days ago, but now there is. So yeah, whatever you fancy, whatever I've included, just pop them around and it will make your wreath pop until your bulbs start to bloom and flower. And of course, remember what I did say in the beginning, that if you find that they're getting a little bit, you know, dowdy or anything, you can pop more in, you can remove it, replace them. But with misting, you'll find that they'll actually last really, really long. So let your creative juices flow, and yeah, this is the really fun part when it all comes together. I have finished popping the verbena through, some leaves, and my suggestion with you, this is just a hint, do put some greenery and flowers on the inside and on the outside. It will make your wreath a lot bigger and it'll make it look a lot more natural. There's, you know, this is like anything, it's how much do you work it, how full do you make it. There's no right or wrong where, you know, I'm quite happy with it now. As I say, maybe in a day or two I might spot some blossom on a tree and I might just nip it off and pop it through. It's absolutely fine to do that. It's really going to come into its own, of course, when the bulbs themselves flower, and they're just going to look so delightful on the wreath. One thing I would like to remind you, please remember that you need to spray your wreath. I have my own little spray bottle and I regularly spray them. What I do sometimes actually is take it off and actually put it under the tap, or just spray the back and then let it drain before I hang it up again. And yeah, I think that's it. It's so simple. Just think that from a bit of willow, a few bulbs and everything, you've created this beautiful, beautiful wreath that's going to change and develop. And of course, the bulbs, you can use them. You can either just plant them out in the garden afterwards, or of course you can put them in a paper bag in a cool, dry place, and then ready for next year. The last thing I'm going to show you is just how to hang your wreath. I have included some twine. Just put a knot at the end of it, okay, and find where you want to hang your ring. Find where you want to hang your wreath, should I say. Yeah, just find a gap or a bit of space that you want, and then all you need to do is just thread it on itself, and there you go. So here we have a completed wreath. This particular wreath I've kept quite muted. It's very natural. I did make a wreath a couple of weeks ago that's much brighter. I'll put a picture at the end of the video as well. But what's wonderful about it is, as you see, as the weeks go by, so the wreath will evolve and change. And that's just lovely, isn't it? So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed the experience and you've learned a few skills along the way. So happy spring, everybody!